piece that went up this week, which is on the MIT website, web.mit.edu/newsoffice. Maybe you can repeat it later. web.mit.edu/newsoffice. It is a roundtable discussion among 3 major players in the MIT community on the subject of immigrant entrepreneurship and immigration reform. What are the key takeaways? First key takeaway, that a high fraction of high-tech entrepreneurs are foreign-born. I think many of us know that, but that's a fact. And so if we are going to try to grow our economy in the entrepreneurial arena, in this innovation economy from which Massachusetts will benefit disproportionately, that's one of the key ingredients to it. Number 2, we need a new visa category for foreign national entrepreneurs, as well as for those who graduate. Whether it's called Startup Act 3.0 or what it's called, we need a new visa category. Marissa has given us some very specific suggestions that she has about how to balance off the H-1B visa program, but the fact is we need an entirely new visa category. Takeaway 3, we can learn something from other countries. We often think we know everything there is to know, but whether it's Canada or the UK or Chile or Australia, far more welcoming policies around immigrant entrepreneurship and around welcoming people, welcoming entrepreneurs, welcoming foreign-born people to their shores, because they're going to add enormously to their economic well-being and they're going to add jobs. And finally, we just don't produce enough master's and PhD graduates from our colleges and our universities. Undergraduates as well, but we don't produce enough. So let's keep the talent we actually create here, and let's not send it away by policies that, to use the President's words, are dumb. So those are the takeaways from that piece. It's a very good roundtable conversation. It's not long. It's probably 4 or 5 pages if you print it out, and I think it's well worth reading. Second, bringing it back to the Commonwealth. There is one issue that has been a highly controversial issue over the past few years and should not be, and that's the issue of in-state tuition at our public colleges and universities for children of undocumented people. Now, I give a lot of credit to some people who came along 6 or 7 years ago and tried to change the law and thought they were going to make it, and then a lot of the elected officials bailed out at the last minute for reasons that many of us are familiar with. It was unfortunate. I give the governor a lot of credit for having taken the foundational decision, executive order that the President made, and changed our policy here so that now we do offer in-state tuition, but that's on a temporary basis. It was done by executive order, and it's only temporary because it's only there as long as the President's policy, which is time limited, is in place. We need to pass legislation here in Massachusetts that puts into law, once and for all, the notion and the reality that the children of undocumented people are entitled to in-state tuition at our public colleges and universities. Now, the opponents will give you reasons why that shouldn't happen. They'll say that, well, they're taking away positions at our 29 public colleges and universities that other Massachusetts-born people could have, and that's not fair, and they're not entitled to displace someone else. Wrong. They displace no one. The presidents of public colleges and universities have made it absolutely clear that there are places for every one of those young people. So there is no displacement of those who would otherwise want to sit at those tables in those classrooms. We have room for all. We have almost 300,000 people who go to one of our public colleges and universities, community colleges, the 9 four-year colleges and universities, and the UMass system. Second, they say that it will cost us money. Once again, absolutely wrong. The Mass Taxpayers Foundation did a very, very solid analysis of this and have concluded that it actually creates a positive cash flow for the Commonwealth. If you take the in-state tuition that will be charged to the children of undocumented people and add it to our revenues, we will actually benefit, and the cost of expanding, which is not a lot of this, we're not talking thousands of people. We're probably talking about hundreds of people to start with. The cost to the Commonwealth is not significant. As a matter of fact, we benefit. So if we're going to create positions in colleges and universities that we actually have that are going to displace no one, and we're going to create positive cash flow, and we're going to create young people with college degrees who are going to be part of the workforce of our 21st century innovation economy, I can't see a single downside to doing it. So I hope we take Governor Patrick's decision, done by executive order, actually codify it and can build a bipartisan coalition to make that happen. Finally, when I became treasurer, having come from business, I was in business all my life, having run a fourth-generation family business that was started by my grandfather, an immigrant from Russia in the year 2000, who started his business in 1900, who started the business in 1910. It's now 103 years old. So I was sensitive to the sole issue of how do we grow businesses in Massachusetts. I asked one simple question when I became treasurer. Where are the Commonwealth's reserve deposits? In other words, where is the Commonwealth's cash? What did I find out? It was sitting in banks in Europe, Australia, and Asia. Why? It was chasing a little bit higher yield. And I said, well, have we ever given banks in Massachusetts, small local community and regional banks in Massachusetts, an opportunity to compete for that money on a level playing field? Answer, no. I said, let's create a new program. Let's create the Small Business Banking Partnership based on several key principles. First, banks have to give us a competitive interest rate so the taxpayers, you, we, don't have to subsidize it. Number two, they have to insure or collateralize the money so the taxpayers can't lose. Third, they have to agree to loan the money to small businesses with a focus on our gateway communities. We have 26 gateway communities, and a further focus on women-owned, minority-owned businesses. There should be a banner here over this table. It should be, we celebrate immigrant entrepreneurship here in Massachusetts, because that is going to be the backbone of our future. Finally, those banks that get the money have to put up on a public website every 90 days how much money they've put into new loans and how many new loans were generated. Where did we come up with this idea? Came up with this idea because we did roundtable discussions. I went out to Springfield, and I sat with Carlos Gonzalez at the Latino Chamber of Commerce, one of the fastest growing chambers in the Commonwealth. And I sat with 31 business owners for 2.5 hours. I said, what are the roadblocks and barriers you face? And how can we in government remove those roadblocks and barriers? By being faster, more flexible, more entrepreneurial. Answer, healthcare is too expensive. Find a way to lower the cost of healthcare for small business owners. Number two, too much permitting, too much regulation. Time is money, and you're burdening us with regulation and permitting, some of which is nonsensical. Third, lack of technical assistance. Fourth, access to capital. I thought about access to capital. Had a roundtable discussion with Haitian business owners at a library in Mattapan. Had a roundtable discussion at the Islamic Center on Newbury Street with Muslim business owners and heard about the racial profiling that goes on over and over again since 9/11 that affects Muslim business owners and keeps them from growing their businesses. And finally concluded that if we created a program and focused on women-owned, minority-owned business owners, so many of whom are immigrants, first-generation immigrants, we could actually generate an enormous amount of economic activity. What's the result? We have now taken $308 million of your money, put it into 51 banks, 1/3 of the community banks in Massachusetts. They in turn have made almost 4,000 loans. We don't claim credit for every one of those loans, but we've been a catalyst for those loans with a value of almost $600 million. Numbers tell one story. I want to tell you one story, and I'm going to end with this story. I got a call one day from John Boucher. John Boucher, many of you know, he's the CEO of South Shore Bank. And he said, I want you to come down and help me present a loan to a small business owner. I said, sure. So I went down to Weymouth, and I drove up to Stone Design. Stone Design is a little company that does, if you wanted your kitchen redone, if you wanted to put a new sink or a new counter, or you wanted to put an outdoor grill, you'd bring Stone Design in. They cut marble and other types of stone, they polish it, they install it in your kitchen, or in your bathroom, or in your outdoor patio, and they finish the whole project up. And I met the owner. The owner is Hoa Vu. Hoa Vu came from here from Vietnam in 1981. Now you might say, well, he was coming for a job or because he had family here. Wrong. No family, no language skills, no trade skills. But he had been told that if you come to the United States and you work hard and play by the rules, you can make something of yourself. So Hoa Vu came here, learned English, met an Irish stonecutter named Chris, who ironically had fought in the U.S. Army 30 years ago in Vietnam. And they teamed up. Chris knew how to cut stone. Hoa Vu was prepared to work 100 hours a week. And they teamed up. And they built a great business. And as a result of this loan from South Shore Bank, he's going to be able to increase the size of his business by 50%, beautify his premises, put a new storefront, and hire more people, i.e. create more jobs. And when Wavu came up to the microphone, after I spoke, and after the mayor spoke, and after the banker spoke, the real hero came up. He said, I'm here today with my son Johnson and my son Peter. My daughter couldn't be here. He said, my wife and I and our 3 kids live here. We live in this community. He said, I never thought that I'd be able to go to a bank and get a loan to help grow my business. But what I was told so many years ago actually happened. This immigrant from Vietnam has created a great business that serves the people of Weymouth and the people of the South Shore. He got money from a banker who believed in him. He's going to pay that money back. He's going to continue to work hard. And that story is repeated over and over again in the neighborhoods of Boston, in Fall River, in New Bedford, in Methuen, in Peabody, in Quincy. You name it, it's happening. And that's what we have as a great opportunity. And if we have thoughtful, rational, common sense ideas and policies, and if we can focus on the growth in our workforce, and the Boston Globe just cited the 1 million immigrants, half of whom are now citizens, who are creating economic vitality because of their energy, their optimism, their creativity, their imagination, and their willingness to work hard. We are going to make sure that Massachusetts, in the years ahead, is the best place in the world in which to live, work, bring up a family, get an education, and build a business. And I apologize once again for running out on you. I'm delighted that you did this, you and Carlos and the team. I look forward to further discussions with my colleagues here, because this is as important a topic as we have as citizens to deal with in the years ahead. And thank you for making this happen.
Thank you for coming, Steve. Appreciate it. Our next speaker, Natalie.